how can Urban Meyer, with a straight face, blame his running backs coach for wanting James Robinson to get more touches late in that game and basically throw up his hands? You know, I guess that's what Bernie wanted to do. You're telling me that one of the great breakout stars of the NFL last season, you're only 1,000-yard back on a squad that is bereft of really elite talent, on a franchise that's trying to build some type of culture and find talent anywhere they can. One of the great uncoverings, discoveries of the NFL last year, undrafted little old James Robinson, Illinois State, that you as the head coach have no idea who's coming in and out of sub packages, even James Robinson. And when you see James Robinson in there, you don't go, you know what, guys, not smart. You're totally that detached. You're that aloof that the running backs coach decides who the running back rotation is. A, he's either lying, or B, he is completely disconnected. Neither one of which is good. He's either A, lying, B, detached. Neither one of which is good. Urban Meyer's already had a series of PR blunders, and so he doesn't need any more. But this one might be worse than dancing with a chick at his bar after a loss. That's certainly not great. You'd like him to fly back with the team instead of staying back to get his groove on. But this actually has to do with the health of a player on the field. James Robinson's clearly one of your best players. And you don't care that he's back on the field after nursing an injury in a 30-point blowout? You don't care? Or you didn't notice? Or you thought it was the right deal, and now you're throwing an assistant coach under the bus? What is it? None of that is good. And it's a little thing because the Jaguars are terrible. You don't care whether James Robinson gets into a football game or not, whether he has 4 carries or 10 carries or 12 carries, unless he's on your fantasy team. You don't care what the Jaguars running back rotation is, but this is a big deal. This is a huge deal because Urban Meyer is probably, in my estimation, lying because he realizes in retrospect how stupid it was. Urban Meyer, you're going to sell me on this. He's the head coach of a football team. He knows his roster inside and out. He knows who's good, who's not, who's scratched, who's healthy, who's injured. He knows all of that. He knows who's rehabbing, who's ready, who's not. And he recognizes James Robinson is ready to start the game against one of the best teams in football, the Rams. I know they had lost 3 straight games, but clearly the Rams are a very good football team. He's cognizant enough of James Robinson being healthy to play because he starts. Then he fumbles and gets sent to the bench, clearly as a punishment, and then becomes unaware late in the game that James Robinson is back in there, becomes unaware that the consequence of fumbling is being benched, but once it's a blowout, it doesn't matter anymore. He suddenly becomes unaware of the reality in the 3rd and 4th quarters. It's not true. He's certainly aware of it because he had to make the decision of who starts and who doesn't. And clearly he made a decision on who's going to be benched and who doesn't. I don't think Bernie Parmalee decides who gets benched. I certainly don't think the running backs coach decides, starting running back, you're on the sideline. And Urban Meyer turns around and is like, where's James Robinson? I benched him, coach. It's 3rd and 3 from the 5. We need a first down here. Where is my guy? Sorry, he's benched, coach. No, that's Urban Meyer's decision. So Urban decides to start him. Urban decides to bench him. But when he comes back into the game, that's not Urban's decision? Or he doesn't realize he's back in? Like, once it gets to a blowout, Urban just gives the assistant coaches free reign, do whatever you want? He's lying. He's lying, or he didn't decide to start James Robinson, and he doesn't decide who gets benched, and he doesn't decide who comes in which case, what are you doing? If you're not deciding who starts and who plays and who gets benched, what are you doing? It's a little thing that's actually a huge thing. It's a little thing, but it's actually indicative of a guy who is willing to throw his assistant coaches under the bus to save his own ass instead of owning it, or is so detached he has no control over everything. Well, both of those options are terrible, are absolutely terrible. Well, that's Bernie just wanted to get him touches. Bernie handles the rotation of the running backs. Really? So let's just go ahead and say that James Robinson, coming off of an injury, goes back into a 30-point deficit blowout and re-injures himself and now is done for the rest of the season. You just allow your assistant coaches to make that decision? That's just up to the assistants. You'd have no say in that? Come on. How obscene is that? They're going to pay you $9 million a year to not have a say in what running back plays? I mean, then what is Shad Khan paying for? He is willing to use his assistant coaches to save his own ass in recognizing, in retrospect, yeah, you know what? I put the guy in harm's way and it was stupid, but I'm not going to take responsibility for it. I'm going to put it on my assistant coaches, which is so low. How much do you think Bernie Parmalee makes? Did you even know Bernie Parmalee was the running backs coach of the Jaguars? My guess is who knows and no. Bernie makes a couple $100,000 a year. Urban Meyer makes a couple of $1 million a year. And this gets blamed, pushed on Bernie Parmalee. It just goes to show what a selfish, self-absorbed, defensive guy Urban Meyer is. Stealing money. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I didn't think it was a good hire. I thought it could work. And I thought Urban had built winning cultures before in college football and that he was familiar with that territory. And from a Jaguars perspective, look, he had plenty of experience building losers into winners. But I can't sit here and defend it anymore. I mean, it seemed bad early on, and it still seems bad. What a joke. What an absolute joke.